You've never fired a weapon in the field. You've never crossed a border under your real name. And yet, by next Tuesday, the president of a sovereign nation will be gone because you built the operation that removed him. No uniform, no gun, no record of you existing anywhere near this. Just a laptop, a phone, and the kind of quiet authority that only comes when you realize governments don't fall because of armies. They fall because someone like you decided they should. Since 1947, the United States alone has been linked to over 70 documented attempts to influence, destabilize, or remove foreign governments. That's not conspiracy. That's declassified history. And somewhere inside the architecture of those operations, at every level, was a person doing exactly what you're about to do. This is what that life actually looks like. Level 1, the analyst. The office has no windows. That's the first thing you notice. You're 26 years old, political science PhD, a security clearance that took 8 months and 3 polygraph sessions to obtain. Your official job title is Foreign Policy Research Analyst. That title is not entirely accurate. Your actual job is this. You build vulnerability maps on foreign governments. Every fracture point, every pressure crack, economic instability, ethnic tension, opposition leaders with ambition but no funding, generals who feel overlooked, central bankers who owe the wrong people favors. You produce documents that are 300, sometimes 400 pages long, dense, clinical, precise. Nobody outside a very small room ever reads them. You spend your first 6 months on a country in South America. You don't speak the language. You've never been there. It doesn't matter. You work from intercepts, economic data, academic research, and reports from people whose names you'll never know. Your final assessment ends with one sentence. Current leadership is removable within 18 months, given sustained economic pressure and coordinated opposition support. You're proud of that sentence. It's clean. It's analytical. It demonstrates exactly the kind of strategic clarity your supervisors are looking for. You don't think about what it actually means yet. You should have. Level 2, the asset handler. They move you out of the office. New cover identity. New country. You're a trade attaché now, attached to a consulate in a neighboring nation, 300 miles from your actual target. Your job title, again, is not entirely accurate. Your real job, find people inside the target country, cultivate them, and when the time is right, activate them. The CIA documented this process extensively. The Church Committee hearings in 1975 pulled back the curtain on decades of exactly this work. Local journalists, politicians, military officers, and businessmen quietly placed on the payroll of foreign intelligence agencies, turned not with threats, but with relationships. You meet the editor of a regional newspaper in a hotel bar. It takes 3 months. You become his friend, genuinely. You learn about his daughter's school fees, his wife's medical bills, the government contract his paper lost after he published something mildly critical of the interior minister. You listen, you sympathize. You are, for 3 months, the best friend he has ever had. On month 4, you explain, very gently, what you actually need from him. He goes quiet for a long time. Then he asks how the payments would work. You file the report that night. Asset confirmed. Activated. Phase 1. Operational. You feel nothing writing it. You note in some distant part of yourself that you expected to feel something. You didn't buy him. You gave him a reason he could live with. That's worse. In somewhere, you already know it.
Level 3, the economic warfare specialist. You never leave the building for this part. That's what makes it so clean. Your team has identified 3 critical vulnerabilities in the target government's economy: a dangerous dependency on a single agricultural export, dwindling foreign currency reserves, and a central bank governor with a history of making private deals that don't appear in any public record. You don't hack anything. You don't forge anything. You make 3 phone calls. 1 to a contact at an international financial institution, 1 to a commodity trading desk in London, 1 to a private equity firm with regional interests and a very flexible definition of market forces. Within 90 days, the target country's currency has dropped 22%. Inflation is running at 34%. The shelves in working-class neighborhoods are emptying. Fuel prices have doubled. This is not an accident. This is a method. Declassified Nixon-era documents show that in 1970, the directive given regarding Chile was explicit: make the economy scream. That language is real. That document exists. It is available at the National Security Archive. You know this because you cited it in your Level 1 vulnerability assessment. You watched the news footage one evening. There are protests in the capital. The crowds are large, angry. There are children in the streets because their parents brought them, because the parents have nowhere else to be. Your supervisor sends you a one-line message. Phase 2 proceeding on schedule. You close the laptop, you go to bed. You're sleeping fine. That's the part that should scare you. Level 4, the information architect. Here's something they don't put in the briefings. Once you control what people believe, everything else becomes easy. Your team now manages 3 Facebook pages in the local language with a combined 2.1 million followers, 2 regional news websites, a WhatsApp broadcast network reaching over 400,000 phones directly. None of it traces back to you. None of it is registered in a real name. All of it looks completely organic. This isn't new. The CIA's Operation Mockingbird, running from the early 1950s through at least the 1970s, involved cultivating relationships with major media organizations to shape narratives. Church committee investigators confirmed it. The scale was significant. What you're running is a modern version, faster, cheaper, more precise. Your directive this week: the current leader must look corrupt and incompetent. The opposition leader must look inevitable. You spend Tuesday morning writing fake eyewitness testimonies about a government official accepting bribes. The writing is good. Specific details, consistent geography, named locations that actually exist. By Thursday, 2 international wire services have picked up the story and cited local sources. The story is entirely fabricated. You wrote it in 2 hours. Then a real journalist starts asking questions. She's based in the capital. She's good. You can tell from the questions she's filing with your front websites. She's found 3 inconsistencies. Your supervisor calls. Handle it, he says. You don't ask what that means. You already know what that means, and you don't push back. That moment, that specific moment of not pushing back, is the one you'll spend years thinking about later. Truth stopped mattering 3 weeks ago. You barely noticed it leave. Level 4. The engineer of the collapse. You enter the country for the first time under a Canadian passport. Occupation listed: mining consultant. You take a cab to a restaurant in a neighborhood that doesn't attract attention. Private dining room in the back. The general is already there when you arrive. 3 stars, 28 years of service. Passed over for promotion twice. Quietly resentful. A family he worries about constantly. He's been on your team's radar for 2 years. Every documented 20th century regime change required this conversation. Iran, 1953. Guatemala, 1954. Chile, 1973. In each case, somewhere inside the operation, someone sat across a table from a senior military officer and made an offer. You make yours. His family will be quietly relocated before the transition begins. $4 million will clear into an offshore account within 24 hours. His role in the new security structure is already being designed around his experience. All he has to do when the moment comes is nothing. Stand his troops down, order them back to barracks. Let it happen. You push the envelope across the table. Account details, relocation contacts, a timeline. He doesn't touch it immediately. He stares at the table for a long time. Then he looks up and asks one question: will anyone get hurt? You answer without hesitation. Smooth. Practiced. Reassuring. You both know you're lying. His hands are shaking slightly as he reaches for the envelope. Yours are completely still. That stillness, that absolute absence of tremor, is the thing that keeps you awake that night. Not guilt, just the cold recognition of who you've become. Level 6. The crisis manager. 72 hours before the scheduled transition, everything falls apart. One of your assets goes silent. Then he surfaces on state television. He's confessing not everything, but enough. Names, dates, the broad outline of foreign interference in the country's internal affairs. The protests that follow are for the wrong side. Your information network is partially burned. 2 front pages get identified and pulled within hours. Your supervisor stops responding to messages entirely. You're in a hotel room in a neighboring country with a burner phone and $200,000 in a bag, and you have 6 active assets inside the target country whose covers are dissolving in real time. You have 48 hours to contain this. You work the phone. You reroute what you can. You burn 3 assets to protect the 2 most critical ones. Then your extraction coordinator calls. 3 people are in immediate danger. You have resources to move exactly 1 person to safety. One of those 3 people is the newspaper editor, the man with the daughter in school and the wife with medical bills. The man you spent 3 months befriending before you used him. You recruited him. You activated him. He is in danger because of decisions you made inside an office he never knew existed. You stare at the ceiling of your hotel room. You make the call. Someone isn't making it out. You've known that for the last 4 hours. You kept moving so you wouldn't have to sit with it. Now, you're sitting with it. Level 7. The architect. The president resigns at 6:07 a.m. You're watching on a laptop, alone. A safe house. Nothing on the walls. By 9 a.m., the interim council holds its first press conference. 3 of the 5 members have been managed by your team for over a year. The statement they read, the economic commitments, the bilateral agreements, the language about democratic transition, you wrote that document 6 weeks ago in a file that no longer officially exists. The operation is declared a success. You file the completion report. 12 pages. Entirely bloodless in tone. The transition described as proceeding within expected parameters. Your report says nothing about the arrests beginning in the southern districts, nothing about the opposition newspapers shuttered that same morning, nothing about the fact that the new government is, within 18 hours of taking power, doing several of the exact same things you spent 14 months building a case against the old government for doing. You know all of this. Your report says nothing. You close the file. You eat a meal you won't remember eating. You look at the television. Crowds celebrating in the main square, flags waving, genuine joy on people's faces. And you feel something that takes you a while to identify. It isn't pride. It isn't guilt. It's just absence, the hollow space where the meaning of all of this was supposed to be. You built exactly what they asked for. You're just not entirely sure what that was anymore. 5 years later, you're home. Different city, different name in 3 countries. Married, a normal apartment with normal furniture, and a life that from the outside looks completely ordinary. You can't tell your spouse what you did. You can't explain the years-long gap in your verifiable employment history. You can't access mental health services through normal channels. The kind of disclosure that requires is the kind you're legally prohibited from making permanently. Former CIA officers who worked in political action, men like Philip Agee and Frank Snepp, who eventually broke silence and faced serious legal consequences for it, described a particular kind of isolation that follows this work. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a permanent, quiet separation from the world everyone else gets to live in freely. You read the news occasionally. The country you operated in is now in its 3rd year of civil conflict. The general you paid is under international sanctions. The interim council you installed lasted 18 months before being voted out. The movement that rose in its place is more hostile to your government than the original target ever was. The newspaper editor, you found out through a secondary channel 2 years ago, was imprisoned for 6 months by the government you put in power. He's out now. His paper is closed. You don't know about his daughter. Somewhere in a building that doesn't appear on any public map, there is a filing cabinet. Inside that cabinet is a document with your real name on it, attached to every decision you made, every call, every asset, every report that said nothing when it should have said something. You can't access that document. You can't destroy it. A journalist emailed you this morning. They found your name in a partially declassified FOIA release. Just your name, attached to a regional posting from 8 years ago. Nothing specific. They want to ask about your time working overseas. The email has been open on your screen for 6 hours. You have 24 hours to decide whether to answer. You spent a decade making people disappear. Now you understand exactly how it feels. Somewhere right now, in a building with no windows, a 26-year-old is finishing a research paper. It's dense. It's clinical. It's the sharpest piece of analysis they've ever written. The final sentence reads, "Current leadership is removable within 18 months given the right economic pressure." They're proud of that sentence. They have absolutely no idea what they just started.